Welcome to the National Initiative for Cybersecurity Education podcast series. I'm Dan Manson. With me today is Liz Fraumann, Syned Cyber Girl Director, and a good friend of mine. Liz, welcome to the show.
Good morning, Dan. I'm so glad to be here and very excited about it. We at Syned and the Cyber Guild are just thrilled with everything that NICE is doing, and you specifically, Dan. We have a long history and a long relationship, as you know.
Well, I love your story, and I always like to hear the backstory on how people got started with cybersecurity competitions, with cybersecurity workforce development. So can you tell us how you got started with it? What got you into it?
Well, it's an interesting story, a lot of fun. My background is in marketing communications, and I've had fun with many organizations globally doing those kinds of things. When I got to a company called ESET, they do software security. The CEO basically challenged us to help train people because he saw that one of the biggest issues, and we like to use the acronym PBCAC, right? The problem just exists between the keyboard and the chair, and that's all of us, right? And so he said, let's do some things to help educate people on how to help them help themselves, right? Because cybersecurity is truly everyone's responsibility. It's not just about an organization protecting us, the government protecting us, and each one of us. It's everyone working together to do that. So we started doing those kinds of things and to having workshops and working with some teens and smaller groups. I think our first competition, we had 2 or 3 teams, 5 teams it was, with the San Diego Mayor's Cup. And as you can see from my background, I'm no longer in San Diego, I'm in the
Beautiful
Northwest here.
background.
Yeah, thank you. Bottom line is that it took off. We had kids that were interested and kids that are very hands-on and very excited to try things within the realm of cyber. And one of the things that's most exciting about them is they have no fear. They want to jump in, they want to experiment, and they're so eager to learn. And so from there, we started having more competitions. We started doing training with them, building up cyber boot camps, things like that.
What is it about the competitions that you started running that got you excited about doing more? What did you see perhaps that you hadn't seen in other ways of training or other classrooms?
Yeah, we saw a lot of teamwork, which in the business environment is absolutely key. No one person has the right answers. We all must work together to take things forward. We saw that happen in spades with the kids. You have leaders, you have people that like to follow, you have people that are relatively quiet. Same thing that's mirrored in the workplace. And so to watch these kids experience that and go to their strengths, right? They knew that they could not do it alone, right? Typically, we had teams of 5 members, and we've kind of modeled that going forward with Syned and most everything else that we've done. Is that the model is 3 to 5 students work best together in that small cohort, small team, where strengths can shine, weaknesses can be covered up, and just you help each other. So that's really important. And the other thing is the curiosity. I think one of the greatest things that we did was the competitions and the training that we did, we based it on real life scenarios. And I think that is an ultimate key. There's a lot of competitions out there that are very important for the kids to experience. Cyber Patriot being one of them. They're well known, they're a well-oiled machine, and they really, really, really do a lot of great things with the kids. But what we were interested was providing the unexpected, because that's life, right? As an IT person, you may go into your office one day thinking, here's my plan, I'm going to do these 20 things. Next thing you know, 15 other things came over that were higher priority. So what you have to do is have flexibility, and that's the kind of competition that we put together, was the unknown and the flexible that says, here's some things real life. We also worked on some things that are, to me, extremely important. That is real life scenarios. So everyone knows that if we don't have energy, all of our digital life just goes away, right? So what we wanted to do was, that was one of our first competitions that we did when I joined Syned, was the Mayor's Cup. And there was a lot of effort in that. We had 270 teams. I think it was 1,300 kids all in the same system, same time. And our scenario was an energy based scenario with when it goes grid down, right? What do you do?
I had the honor of attending a few of the Mayor's Cup competitions, and there are several things that struck me. Obviously the talent of the kids, their ability to work together, because cybersecurity is not just technology. It's how you communicate. It's how you solve problems. But the
Yes.
other thing I really want you to comment on is the partnership. You had one of the best partnerships between government, between private, and between schools that I have ever seen. How did you put that together? What made it succeed?
Well, that's it's really key. Number one, it takes a community, right? One of our former leaders said it takes a village. I think it takes a whole community coming together, and it starts with number one, the kids feeling as though that they belong and that they care, and that comes from champions like you, from all the people that we have in Synod and Cyber Guild across the whole state of California, Mario Garcia, etc. All of our leaders, Alan Stubblehill, Jay Garcia, um, Paul Johnson, certainly in San Diego, and Tara Taylor. Tara Taylor's story is very interesting too, Dan. She's a former English school teacher for middle school, and the kids were disengaged in her classroom. And she goes, we tapped her on the shoulder and said, hey, consider this cyber activity. Next thing you know, she's the lead cyber faculty member in Sweetwater School District in San Diego County. It's like, oh my goodness, the woman is switched on and just so exciting. She
Mhm.
now focuses almost solely on cyber and at the middle school level. Her greatest sad point is that she teaches sixth grade. So they go off to the middle school the next year, and she now loses touch, or she never loses touch, right? Not in what she does, but certainly doesn't have the day-to-day interaction with the kids.
That's kind of an ongoing question. At what age can we get kids interested in doing these hands-on activities? What's your take on that?
I think we should start the second we give them a digital device. And notice I did not say a cell phone.
Mhm.
It's that digital device, whether it's a cell phone, a tablet, computer, whatever it is, right? There has to be responsibility. And in my opinion, okay, very caveated, my opinion, it should start at home with the parents. If you're going to give your child that device, I've had several parents tell me, gosh, my child bought this product on Amazon. I had to return it. Well, they had taught the child how to put it in the wish list. The child was able to figure out how to do the buy. So when
Mhm.
it shows up at the home, okay, these are not experienced kids at age 5 or 6, right, in cyber. So where does the responsibility lie? At home, right? So we're actually, Cyber Guild is actually working with the Girl Scouts and getting ready to put together a workshop starting in San Diego County area. So we'll have one in San Diego proper, one in North County, one in Imperial County. Last spring, we did one in Moreno Valley. And so we're trying to work with the Girl Scouts on activities there. Frankly, to be honest, Ann, we'd like to work with Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, Boys Clubs, Girls
Mhm.
Club, any youth organization. The Girl Scouts have a model that they start as low as kindergarten, and we actually have cyber activities. Palo Alto Networks put together a badge program for the Girl Scouts.
Mhm.
And so we're using that as the model, but actually instituting it, putting it together, and having the activities.
So you moved on to Synod and to Cyber Girl. Cyber Girl is doing amazing things through and
Excuse me, it's
Synod,
Cyber Guild. Guild.
Cyber Girl
No,
uh,
no, Guild.
Guild. Can you talk about this organization, how you became involved, and the vision?
Yes. Basically, Synod was started about 5 or 6 years ago, focused on higher education services and helping with the particular activities that go on in an institution that they may not have the expertise for. We have a concierge service. We do digital badging. We do all sorts of things under that umbrella. That is the primary organization. Cyber Guild came about late midsummer this last year, in that it was formerly known as Cyber Hub. Cyber Hub, California Cyber Hub is known throughout all of California. We considered taking it nationally, and it was already trademarked by another group in the United States. So we had to figure out a new name. So it became Cyber Guild. I did some contract work for them starting, about a year and a half ago. And they asked me to come on full time. So it was my pleasure to join the group, become part of that, and help drive the mission and vision that we have to help educate the communities in cyber. And notice I didn't just say the kids. Again, getting back to our previous conversation, it is extremely important, in my opinion. Not only do we educate the kids, but the parents, with the example I said about shopping on Amazon,
Hmm.
into the school systems, which then you get into the faculty members. This is where the exciting things can happen with teams and forming cyber teams and having competitions with which they can participate in. The coaches, and we'll keep this in mind as we continue our conversation, coaches don't have to be cyber knowledgeable. What they do need to do is be able to be excellent at time management
Hmm.
with large groups of students, right? So for example, the shining star is Alan Stubblefield, right, out of Troy High School. And he's basically helped start a magnet school in that area. And bottom line, he has over 350 students in his cyber teams, right? 350 students with one coach. So what he does is something, go ahead.
I had the pleasure of attending the fourth annual Troy Cyber Banquet about a month ago, and it just blows me away. It's better than any sports banquet I can imagine going
Oh,
to.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
one thing he did, I wanted to continue, but one thing he did that really struck me, he had every senior come up to the podium and say how many years they've played and what was their most memorable moment. He
Yep,
had he had 6-year kids. He had
yeah.
kids that played 2 years in middle school and all 4 years in high school, and the moments were hilarious and they were touching. It was just a beautiful event. But continue.
Yes, we had some similar activities with our SoCal Cyber Cup, where we have the winning awards dinner, right? And there was a gentleman, one of our first groups that we had back in history doing the SoCal Cup, and they called him Purple George because he liked to wear purple shirts. And the young man that he had to be in 7th or 8th grade when he started, was now at the podium speaking. And I said, what was most memorable for you? He goes, Purple George. And of course, he got, not too many other people knew who Purple George was. He was a student that always took, this is emotional for me. He always took the younger kids under his wing, always helped train them, always said, I have time for you. If you have a question, I'm going to help teach you. And here was a young man that as a 7th grader came in, his hair was a mess, the ratty t-shirts, typical what you think of a struggling young man, right? When he was at the podium, he was wearing a suit. He never came out in public to the awards dinner from the point that after Purple George talked to him without a suit on. And that's the impact that kids have on other kids.
Hmm.
And so similar experience, what you're talking with Alan and his group in Troy. And it's just, you kind of go, how has it touched me and how has it affected me?
Yeah.
In many, many, many ways,
To,
more than I can say.
to your point of being a teacher or a coach, I
Yes,
do think there's a difference, and Alan epitomizes it. Alan
yep,
doesn't teach the kids.
that's
He doesn't
right.
teach the kids. It's pure learning.
Yep,
What I say Alan does, he's a passionate facilitator.
yep,
And I think that's the best quality I can think of that a coach can have. And
yep.
the best quality for a player is to have the passion to play. And one of the best reason I see kids playing in school is something I said to Diane Miller years ago. They play for school pride. They
Yes,
represent their school as
yep.
well as any other sport that they play in the school.
Yes, yes, and let's pick up on that, Dan, because that's really important too. I've been at Rotary Club meetings, businesses literally all around trying to say, okay, businesses, will you please help these kids? Can you sponsor this activity? We have an ongoing activity right now that we're still looking for money for, and that's our Golden Ticket. The Golden Ticket's going to send kids free of charge to the U.S. Space Camp, U.S. Cyber Camp, right? At the U.S. Space and Rocket Center. It's a phenomenal opportunity. I'm still looking for funding, right? So when you go to a Rotary Club, these people all represent businesses. And I was sitting there one time, and I had the football coach bring his top 3 linemen and the quarterback. And they left with a $2,500 check. In the grand scheme of life, that's not a lot of money for some companies, right?
Mm-hmm.
To nonprofits trying to help these kids, or schools trying to help these kids, that's huge. So here's a football team that gets $2,500 because they're there.
Mm-hmm.
And here, then yet the same parading of our cyber heroes that are going to defend our nation, going to defend our communities, going to defend themselves in their homes, it's silence.
Mm-hmm.
And I left that silence with a purpose, because that's what we're hearing. And yet that is the very key linchpin for our nation, states, communities, individuals to be able to continue in cyber in a safer way.
It's
So
hard to
that,
appreciate something you don't see as a spectator. I mean, with the
yeah,
football players, obviously, we all know how to watch football. We don't know
yep,
how to watch and appreciate cyber. And one of my goals is to make it watchable, to make it exciting
yes.
to see, not just to play.
Yeah, and that's where you and I are on the exact same page and have been for years. Again, I go back to how do we make it exciting? How do we, well, there's the negative side. We could have a scenario where you get everybody together and you unplug all power. Now what are you going to do?
Mhm.
I know what I do because I am prepared, right? But that's not everybody, right? So how do we make that real for the small and medium business? There's statistics that show, and let's take an example that everybody can probably remember. Superstorm Sandy that hit the East Coast a couple years back, right? You go to the North New Jersey boardwalk area and along the shoreline there. How many of those businesses do you think had a backup system, or even had cloud access,
Mhm.
or even had anything they could continue doing with their customer base, other than, okay, gosh, we're done.
Mhm.
Um, and yet it's proven a small to medium business, if they have a significant data loss, it could be from a disaster like Sandy or Katrina or Wilma or Ike, any one of them, when you get to that, the volcano, and there's so many things, right? Or it could just be they get hacked
Mhm.
and their data is lost. They didn't have a backup. Now what do? I think the numbers range between 75% and higher, are out of business within 2 years.
Mhm.
So if you lose power, and gosh, I think it was 2011 where we had downtown San Diego, the power was gone. There was a glitch in the grid, took it out from Yuma, Arizona, all the way up to Riverside.
I remember.
Yeah, me too. I was there. Yep. So what happens there? Were there any lost businesses because it was probably touched less than 24 hours that the power was out? That clock is ticking the second that power drops out, right?
Mhm.
And you look again, going back to the critical infrastructure, it was extremely interesting because I actually used to give presentations to the building management society, building operations management. And then they had the elevator operators actually asked me to come and speak to their group. So you look at all the infrastructure we count on: downtown San Francisco, Los Angeles, San Diego, Seattle, et cetera, all along that Pacific Rim, right? Where there's earthquake zones, et cetera, that we know about. How many of them are prepared to even bother to think about an elevator? I don't know that I'd want to, what's it, the Transamerica building downtown San
So,
Francisco? I don't know I'd want to do all those flights,
mm,
I know
right.
what it was like going down 21 flights just for, or 20 flights of stairs in a high rise downtown San Diego. So, again, what's the impact and how secure are we?
Going forward,
Yes.
5 years from now, where would you personally like to be? Where would you like Syned and Cyber Girl
Guild.
be?
Guild.
And just what is your vision for the future?
I'd like to see, gosh, me personally, maybe a monkey pod tree on Hawaii, but no, I'm teasing. Um, I don't see myself ever sitting back in a rocking chair and not doing. That's not what I want to do. I really want to be at the heartbeat of helping produce our next cadre of cyber defenders and leaders. I think it's a mission that I've been given personally, and I take it that way. As far as Synod and Cyber Guild, gosh, the vision is there as well. We are an organization, a small organization that is designed and focusing on helping others. I think if you ask any one of my teammates, that's what they will say. How can we help others? Well, what's one of the biggest threats that we have? It is indeed cyber. So it is a smaller piece of an entire ecosystem, but it's a heartbeat of our ecosystem. And if we don't have that in order, we don't stand a chance. So it's that educating people, helping them look beyond their moment in time, whether it's their car, whether it is their, it was interesting, there's the coronavirus that's hit the US now. Corona, how do you say it, Dan? I don't know.
Not even going to try.
Okay, I think it's the coronavirus that's made its way to the US from China now.
I know what you're talking about.
And there was a news clip this morning that went to say how the patient is being taken care of remotely through a robot so the doctor doesn't have to get exposed.
Mm-hmm.
That's the future of medicine. Now, is it trusted? I'm not even going to try to answer that, but I know that there are some issues there. Okay. So the point is that, it touches every facet of our life.
Mm-hmm. One more question. You're
Yes.
very involved now with NIST NICE, with the competitions workshop. You go to the NIST NICE conferences. What is it that you would like to see NIST NICE do in this area?
It's interesting that you asked that. The President's Cup that just took place, I thought that was going to be something that was going to be coordinated with all the state governors, and that there would be a team from each state that would actually try to run a cyber presidential cup. That's a vision I would like to be a part of. I would love to help start it. I'd love to drive it. I'd love to make it a reality today. But that's going to take a huge effort to do. Where can NICE fit into that? There's lots of little facets that take place. We had a gentleman on a call about Pacific Rim competition that I just learned about. He mentioned a couple states that are involved there, but California was not one of them. I go, gosh, let us help you there. So we're going to be working on that. Again, it's that we cannot have independent cells that do things. We must have greater communication. And Bill Newhouse and the team are doing a great job as far as helping foster that communication. I know you're heavily involved with NCL. I think NCL has a great idea and platform that could be taken more virtual, given more opportunities to kids. And again, let's go back to that critical infrastructure. If you look at North Dakota, we've had one of the guests speak from North Dakota on our NICE competitions call. I've been in touch with Rosie. That's a mineral-rich state with a whole lot of important properties that are there for our nation, and the governor is very in tune with cyber. I'd like to see more governors step up, more governors to be involved and truly understand what it means. That gets back to funding, Dan. That is at the heart of every single thing that we do.
We need to fund it as a sport.
We need to fund it as a sport. We need to have it visually impactful, like you and I've had a dream for a long time to make it that just like some of the video games that the kids are playing, have them build an avatar, have them get involved, have the injects that happen, and have it based so that it can be built on the critical infrastructures that are appropriate for their area.
Liz, it's been a pleasure having you on. You're doing amazing work. I look forward to seeing what you're going to be doing in the future. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dan. Really appreciate your time and all you do.
This has been the National Initiative for Cybersecurity Education podcast series.